Yo, what's going on? Thursday, it's basketball time. We're about to dive into what we diving into today, basketball, because it's Thursday. So today, having a special guest, Allan. Let me get his name correctly. Allan Purnell will be joining us today. Hear my audio through IG. All right. One second, y'all. We'll figure it out as we go. But like I said, if y'all tuning in, just tune in, not tuning in. We have a special guest on today, Allan Purnell of California, living in Vegas. He'll be talking to us about how, he's going from major D1 player to, businessman, coach, things of that nature. But as we're pretty young, as we wait for the brother to come on, we're going to dive into basketball topics. Man, this echo is killing me. There we go. We figured it out. But first on the topic today, we're going to be talking about Caleb Holt. He has committed to Arizona, which I honestly did not see coming. I was thinking it was going to be Alabama, Auburn. That's who was hot on his recruiting scene. So I was like, man, brothers from Alabama, though he's in Georgia, now in Florida. I thought he was staying in the Southeast. But one thing about Caleb Holt, man, just what I've gathered from intel, man, he's about the building the brand the right way, and I think that's what we see oftentimes when we see kids like such as him, come from small areas and they're playing in Georgia and they're playing out west, playing overseas, playing for Team USA. You get exposed to so many cultures who like, from a small town, let me just continue to push and press that needle. So seeing them commit to Arizona is a good move. I like Arizona. I like what they're building. As we see, number one, I think either top two in their rankings. That's impressive. Oh, hold on. Okay, we got brother, Mr. Allan in the background. We'll go ahead and bring him on. We'll stop the show for the man, the myth, the legend. So as I bring him on in the background, if you're good, brother, give him the thumbs up. Not yet. All right, so we'll buy some time. So brother, when you're good, just let me know something. But go back to Caleb Holt real quick. All right. So when you're a young man, I believe, from a smaller town environment, and you're playing overseas, I think this is a good fit for him. Like I said, Arizona, number one, number two program in the country. You're playing with the freshman will probably leave, but you still got Bryce James in the cut. Arizona's been trending that way for some time now, trending up. All right, he is good to go. All right, we will come back to Caleb Holt and the rest of the basketball news. We will bring on the man of the hour. A man that needs no further introduction, but nonetheless, for those who are on the East Coast, I will enlighten you on the young man. From Orange County, California, played basketball at Kennedy High School of Palma, California, and Savannah High School in Anaheim. Graduated high school, played basketball at Furlington College. Captain there for 3 years after doing this thing, becoming one of the best junior shooting guards in the country. Now transferred to a D1 school, as you may know, the University of Pacific, UOP, for those who know, and made it to the NCAA tournament back-to-back years, 2004, 2005, and that 2005 team was very special. Ranked in the top 15 in the country, and now he's doing amazing things affecting the youth, growing his personal brand. I introduce to you the man, the myth, the legend, Allan Purnell. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. Thanks for the introduction. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, but I tried to do my research, man.
I appreciate it. Thanks for giving University of Pacific the shout out, man. We lost in the WCC tournament. You still got my jerseys right there, so still a proud Tiger. But we lost in the second round of WCC this week.
Nah, 100%. So it's March. It's different feel, different air, you know what I mean? So just do you bring back or you think back to those times often now?
Of course, because it's such a special time, and like the team, I still talk to my teammates, and like when you win on that level, it's something you remember forever. And as a kid, like you mentioned, I played high school, went to JUCO, never thought I'd get a chance to play in the NCAA tournament. So to do that, it was very special. I'll never forget it. And every time this year, I look at all the pictures and my teammates and just that celebration, that first upset, knowing what it's like to be in the locker room with those guys after a win. It's special, man. You can't really replicate that in anything else.
No, 100%. So enlighten me and the viewers may know who y'all upset on that NCAA run.
Yeah, so in 2004, we upset Providence. They had an NBA player by the name of Ryan Gomes, played a couple years. We lost in the second round to Washington, or sorry, we lost to Kansas the second round. They were just a powerhouse. 2005, we were the 8 seed or the 9 seed. We beat Pitt, who had a guy by the name of I forgot his name, Crawford. Pretty good guy out of Brooklyn. Second round, we lost to University of Washington, who had Nate Robinson, Brandon Roy, and it was just another level of basketball that, as a mid-major, we hadn't really seen before. Different kind of athleticism, different kind of like team player, all that stuff. So we ran into a buzzsaw and just lost that year. But it was a good year. We got as high as 15th in the nation. We were 20, I think 6 or 27-4. So it was special.
Nah, that's tough. I'm trying to think if I was locked in on. I probably wasn't locked in on college basketball.
Yeah, but yeah. At that time, I mean, yes, it was tough that time, man. It was like mid majors. We didn't have as many mid majors in the tournament as we do now, who were like making noise. You always get your Cinderella, but we were under the radar for so many years. Or before that, and then the years we got there, we went 17-1 in the Big West my junior year. And then we went 18-0 my senior year. So, I mean, it wasn't anything that was like easy to do. We had to work for it. And then my senior year, we actually lost in the Big West tournament, and we still got an at-large bid, which doesn't really happen. Didn't happen that much at that time with mid-major schools getting into the tournament without them winning their actual conference tournament. So it was a different time. It was fun, though, for sure.
Now, let's dive into it a little bit before we get to more on your story.
Yeah.
As you talk, well, this college sports has changed a lot.
Yes.
And, like you said, mid-majors back then, they kind of just was barely getting in. So you and your team, your story, how was just the day-to-day grind? Did fans come out and support? How did y'all keep yourself motivated?
Yeah, especially so University of Pacific's in a small town called Stockton, about 45 minutes from Sacramento, about an hour and a half from the Bay Area, basically the middle of nowhere in California. So it was just us, Stockton, and we started winning. But it was a grind, man. Like we had, I think, 8 or 9 JUCO transfers. We had 4 or 5 guys who were just from other countries, all coming to Pacific. Wow. One thing we always hang our hat on there is that if you're older, you know about Michael Olowokandi, who was the #1 pick for the Clippers back in the 90s, and he came out of University of Pacific. So that kind of put us on the map. But still, a small school. Nobody's heard the town of Stockton. So for us to win and, bring that kind of notoriety to the city was awesome. So it was a grind, though. I mean, like there's nothing like it. There's nothing really that prepares you for that next level, a Division I, where you're trying to compete for championships and you're nationally ranked. And, we weren't used to that kind of attention, but we handled it well. So I think that's something that you just learn and you grow with. And us being a lot of like junior college transfers, I think that helped a lot because, we're in our 20s pretty much. At that time, so it worked out. We gelled. It was just the perfect storm, man. We just all gelled. We all liked each other. We hung out around each other all the time, and just our chemistry on the court was just incredible. Because, like I said, we were all older. Nobody had egos. We were a small school, so we don't get that guy who just thinks they're all everything. We were all big players at our respective places before we got there. But once we got there, like it was all about winning. You know what I mean? There was just like before NILs, there was no egos. There was no like I deserve playing time, and I didn't play much at all. But we were all just bought into like what it took to win.
100%. Last thing before we transition to how it started, you talked about you didn't think you would make it to NCAA, come from high school, going to JUCO, man. Why not? Why didn't you think you would make it?
A couple reasons. I had that aspiration and dream all the time. I always wanted to, but sometimes reality kicks in. I'm 6'3", maybe. I went to a small high school where I played the post, and I had never really played against taller guys. That's how Orange County was at that time. 6'3", 6'4", you're somewhat athletic. They're gonna put you as a post player because they think you can rebound or whatever. So I was good. I averaged, mid-20s in high school. But again, my size, I'm all mid-range and inside games before everybody started shooting threes like crazy. So I went to JUCO. I went to JUCO, completely changed my game. I had to obviously play on perimeter, which I had never done. I had never shot a three ever in my high school career. Ended up being one of the best shooting guards in the country on the West Coast. But I had to completely reshape my game. JUCO is different, man. I went to school full time, had a part-time job, and I hooped. So I'm literally going to practice and then going straight to my job, or game days I'm going to school, going to work, and then I had 25 that night. You know what I'm saying? So it was a grind, man. But that helped me, when I got to Division I, because I wasn't afraid of the work. You know what I mean? It prepared me for it. But yeah, I think for me, just at the time, just my size and just coming from where I came from, Orange County wasn't a big hub for finding basketball talent. Everybody's going to LA. I didn't get into the AAU scene until my senior year, going into my senior year. So really nobody knew me outside of my little bubble. I got recruited by some smaller schools because I was good, but nothing I really wanted to play D1. So I just you know what, if I can't play D1, I'll go to JUCO. I'll find a way to get there. So that was my attitude, and made it happen.
The grind and the grit. 25, had to go to work, go to school, so definitely a full.
It was crazy. So I see these kids complain about working hard, and I'm like, man, if you only knew. I mean, to go to school all day, then go to work, then have a game, and then have to perform. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get a scholarship, so it's not like I'm just out there going through the motions. So, and then you have to work out on the side of that too. So somehow I made it happen.
I'm just saying, man. Let's dive into your story, Allan, from Orange County, California. Walk me through the story of how you became a young boy who loved basketball to the man you are today. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So my main story is just I played all my life. I was actually one of those kids who had asthma really bad.
Wow.
Doctors always said I wouldn't be tall. I couldn't play sports, all that stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it anyway. That's always had that kind of attitude to where you tell me I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do it anyway. So and then basketball, I played a lot of sports. I played soccer, I played basketball, I played baseball. High school, I even played volleyball. So, always trying to do something to get to that next level and improve my game for sure.
That's big. So what was that moment where you kind of you knew that?
Yeah. I had a really tight-knit group of friends that we used to hoop all the time, especially going into high school. We were the kids that would everybody else is playing and doing stuff for summer. And we're up at 6 a.m. working out. You know what I mean? It was me and 2 or 3 other guys. We were just there every single morning. I get the knock on my window hey, let's go work out. And this is the summer. You know how kids are.
Yeah.
Southern California, they're going to the beach. We're outside. And we're nah, we're getting this workout in. And we worked out 2 or 3 times a day for a whole summer. And then that helped a lot. And then that was my freshman year. I'm like, okay, I'm decent. You know what I'm saying? So going into my sophomore year, I played varsity. Ended up starting varsity at my school. Did really well. Ended up transferring to another school because the coach, I wanted to play with one of my best friends. And the coach was like, hey, we can get you some opportunities and some looks. So I did that and transferred, had a really good junior and senior year. But like I said, it was just a grind, man, just getting those looks at that time without really knowing about AAU and just how to get exposure. It was tough. But luckily, like I said, I had a tight group of friends, and we just all, we all ended up going to different high schools and doing really, really well and just kind of pushing each other to do better. So all that helps, having a good surrounding and, the kind of support. And just we were all super competitive. So we always pushed each other, how many points you got, who are you playing against, stuff like that, who are you getting recruited by, all the time. So that always helps too.
Well, today California basketball is, to a lot of people, it's the Mecca.
Yeah. Yes. Especially I'm telling you, LA, Orange County at that time. And it's before, social media and YouTube. So if you were good and people knew about you, then you really had to be special. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause people actually had to go to see you play. There was no other way. They'd have to go watch you play, go to a game. and then you hear at the different parks who such and such is, and you got to see him play, or where's he going and stuff like that. So seeing it grow, and like it's still like it's competitive out there, man. I love it, and seeing what it's come to. But it was a time when I was growing up, it was really like, not to sound too old, but it was really like intimate with basketball. You know, we didn't have trainers. You learn from the OGs at the park, right? And then you just constantly had to find, like me and my group of friends, we were always looking for new parks to play at too, to try to get more competition. So it helped.
So who was some like? Because I'm trying to think. I don't think it was B. Jennings. I think that's a little too.
That's after me. Yeah. So out of LA, the best player I ever seen growing up was Shea Cotton. He played at Modern Day. He was just like, he's like a hoop legend in California. Like you bring up, you know, guys out of you know, that came out of the area. He went to Modern Day, which was in Orange County too. So him being like going to Orange County school, he was the best player like I had ever seen. Everybody called him LeBron before LeBron. He was like, he even got a documentary out called Man Child now. Like if you don't know who that is, for people watching, go look up Shea Cotton. He was legit. But you know, that was like when I was in high school, that was when like UCLA was really good, had the O'Bannons, and like, you know, Duke was really good. So it was a lot of good basketball back then, because that's when you stayed 3 or 4 years. You know what I mean? So we don't really have that as much now. But out of California, Baron Davis, you know, he's a little older than me, but he was out of California, so it was like around that time. So definitely some legends out there.
Nah, I see. I'm gonna put that for the people. You know what I mean? They need.
Yeah.
You cut me off guard with that one. I need.
Yeah. Look him up. Yes.
Shea Cotton.
Yeah, he was like the guy, because he was like a mythical person, like to us as younger players. Yeah, Matt Barnes. Yeah, all these guys, all of them will talk about Shea. Yeah, and he was the guy, and like that the people kind of knew about, never really saw him play because he was like kind of from LA, but went to school in Orange County. He transferred a couple times. He ended up going to Alabama, I think. And then he was crazy athletic, lefty. He could do everything, man. Like I said, he was LeBron of like my era growing up.
Yeah, LeBron before LeBron, man. Child was one of the most highly talented high school players of all time. It's a crime.
All time. Yep.
Tough. Yeah. So you actually played against him?
No, didn't play against him. He was older. He was older than me by a few years. I played against a couple guys that played like Jamal Sampson, who ended up going to the pros. Couple guys that were just, you know, ended up going on and playing on. But yeah, we had a lot of talented guys out there. But like I said, Orange County, not so much. Most of those guys were out of LA.
That's big. So I want to get back to you. Well, let's stay in this pocket real quick. What do you feel like your class or the classes a little after you kind of shaped and changed Orange County basketball for the work y'all put in?
Oh, that's a real good question. I think we just changed the way, because we brought a certain grittiness to it that I don't think people knew existed in Orange County. Most people think of Orange County as being like softer, a lot of, you know, more predominantly white schools out there. So I think when it came to hoop, is just saying, okay, there's people that can play out there. You know, even when I started playing in college and afterward pro, they'd be like, oh, you're from Orange County, and would catch people off guard because they're like, oh, I didn't know hoopers came out of there. Yeah. So I think it kind of started with like, you know, in the league I played in, we probably had maybe one person from every team probably went Division I would say, when I was a senior, or played in college. There was like 2 or 3 of us my senior year. One went to Pepperdine, I went to UOP, and one went to, I think, Portland. But I think we, like that year or those years, was like we're getting notoriety and saying, hey, we got to start looking at these kids. And then that's when AAU started kind of coming around saying, okay, we got to make AAU teams out of Orange County, because there's a pool of kids who we got to tap into. And that was kind of right before the AAU bubble kind of exploded. It was just, you know, those years, and now travel ball is being taken more serious in Orange County. You don't have to always drive to LA to competition. We can go to the tournaments in Vegas and Texas and Virginia and all those places. So seeing that kind of happen, you know, when I was in the middle of it, and just seeing it grow has been crazy to see. And then now you say that, and it's just like, okay, they're people that can play ball out there. You don't really think as much about it. It's kind of, we get kind of looped in or chucked in with the LA athletes as well.
I'm saying, so what was the culture? Not a lot of people just play. Did they play different sports?
You know what? It just was. California's crazy because there's in Orange County, there's a lot of distractions, right? Like we live by the beach, right? Summers, everybody's outside, right? Trying to do something. There's
Mm,
always something else to do. We have all the sports you can go to. We have the amusement parks. You can there's a lot of stuff you can do in the summer. So, there's some people like hooped and wanted to play, but some others, do other sports. So it was just, there's a lot of different things to do out there. And I think that's part of the reason why it just wasn't looked at like that. So we're just like a tourist county, or like, it just
mm.
wasn't really heavy on sports. We don't have a pro team in Orange County. So, if you're going to watch basketball, you go watch the UCLA's, USC's, the Lakers, Clippers, you go to LA to do all that kind of stuff. Right. So we didn't have that in Orange County. We're just kind of our own like thing. We have like the mid-major schools out there, but that's why I think it was so hard too to break out of that. Like, okay, all of this is in LA. Why are we going to go to Orange County? You know what I mean? Which makes sense. But it just took a lot of fight and scratching and clawing to say, hey, we got to get recognition. We can play ball out here too.
So I get you. I get what you're saying. I mean, you have friends. Y'all got a tight knit group. You want to see each other succeed, but why? I'm saying you wanted to be that one to play basketball. Was it what NBA player did you see who?
You know what? I tell my friends that all the time. Like, growing up there, I wasn't a diehard Laker fan. I grew up in the '90s, so we're all watching Jordan, right? So I watched a lot of college. I loved USC basketball and football growing up. Even my aspirations as a kid, like I was like, I want to play D1. It was never like I want to get to the league and all that. I was like, I want to play college, because that's when UCLA was just all everything. So I think for me, it was just like being able to crack out of that shell and do something that hasn't really been done. I don't actually, to this day, I don't know how many people have gone D1 out of my high school. I may be the only one. I don't know. But just having that challenge of saying, I'm going to be the one, I'm going to make it. I think that motivated me a lot. And just like having the support to do it as well. You know what I mean? It's just having people saying, okay, if you're going to do that, we'll put you in a position to do it. So I think for me, it was just, I like working out. I love the grind of it. I love working out and getting better and seeing results. It was never really for trying to be famous or anything like that, or anything, remotely close to that. It was more for, okay, I'm putting in all this work. Let's see let's see what happens. Let's see how far we can take this. And I'm a firm believer in just loving the process, right? Everything else will come after, but if you fall in love with the process of getting better, you can be great at anything. So I think that was, helped me a lot.
100%. So fell in love with basketball. I had a group of friends that kind of helped you stay locked in to an area that had hoopers that needed more shine. You started your business, HOOPr, HOOP, capital HOOP, lowercase r, man.
Correct.
I can see why you started to kind of get back and help kids, make it out. But from you, why did you start HOOPr?
A lot of reasons. After I was done playing, so I played college, I played semi-pro for some years. In between seasons, I would train a lot. So, trying to keep up, train kids. I started a player development program, had my own youth basketball league. I did a lot with basketball. So when it comes to HOOPr, especially nowadays, it's almost like basketball is getting a little gentrified, and to the point where if you don't have a trainer, you probably don't stand a chance. You know what I'm saying? You need some kind of guidance. Problem with that is most people can't afford trainers. I couldn't afford a trainer when I was growing up. There's a lot of apps and all that stuff online, but you got to pay for most of those apps. So there was a need I saw. There's a lot of kids out there who could benefit from this, and even trainers, finding, kids and helping them. But for me, I just felt that need for kids like me who are just working and just looking for that guidance of okay, where can I find a trusted resource for basketball? So, I just started working and brainstorming, thinking of ideas of, as a trainer. I actually moved to Vegas, and what happened was I had this training program, and I moved to Vegas. And a lot of the kids still wanted me to mentor them and show them drills and stuff like that. But at the time, there wasn't really a way for me to do that. I didn't follow the kids on Instagram. I wasn't really locked in because they were teenagers, right? So I didn't really follow what their lives were personally, but I wanted to help them still. So I needed a platform to show them drills and do things like that. And there wasn't any really, I couldn't really find a way. So I said, hey, if there's no way to do it, I'll just make one. So decided to say, hey, let's try to come up with an idea, a platform to where everybody can share their drills, not just, coach to kid. Because what I also noticed was being on different websites and things like that is a lot of kids have really cool drills, creative stuff that other people can learn from. A lot of these training apps, you get a lot of people who feel like I'm the trainer, I know the best, don't trust what everybody else says or whatever. But a lot of these people have some really creative drills, and it's basically a way to say for people to say, hey, this is what I do to get better. May help you, may not, but at least here's something for you to look at and try. And I think just having that option helps kids tremendously, for them to go there and say, hey, there's a library. Do I want to get better at dribbling? Okay, let's look at all the dribbling drills from people from all over the world, not just, in your town or your city or your state or your country. You can see what people are doing all over the world. We have people from China, Africa, and you really realize how global HOOPr is or basketball is when you see them doing a drill like, oh, wow, I've never seen that before. Oh, wow, they do that over there too. How did they learn about that? So being able to provide a platform where everybody can go in, share what they do, it forces people to get better and be creative and be a part of a community that they didn't even know existed. So that was my main goal, just to bring us all together, to share our knowledge, to bring trainers together, because a lot of times we're looking for the newest thing to do, right? To show our kids, or having, as athletes, just saying, as a lot of coaches, they may say, hey, a lot of AAU coaches are really possessive over the kids they coach. So this gives kids an opportunity to say, hey, I still want to learn. I still want to play for you, but I still want to get better on my own outside. Let me see what else I can do, without, feeling like they have to leave a program or something like that.
Well said, brother. I think that's amazing. Three
Yeah.
things I'm gonna ask you, brother. Number one, how did you create the app? We got a lot of AI agents, perplexity. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, this was before all that. So,
Okay.
so it's a crazy story, man, because like I said, I wanted to do this. I have no background in coding or anything like that, but sometimes things just happen to where it's supposed to happen. So I had the idea, looking up how to wireframe things because you needed somebody to code it. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, how do I want this to work? Once I got it to work, I'm like, this is dope. Now what do I do? Costs money, all this stuff. So I kind of just put it on the back burner. I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to do this. This is like 6 years ago. And I'm like, I can't code. It'll take me years to learn how to code. And when I do, I'll be so far behind, it's not even worth it. So luckily, when I coached in California, there was a guy who I connected with who does web development and develops apps. So it's like, he's like, I can do it for you. I love the idea. I can do it. It's going to be X amount of dollars. And I'm like, I don't got it. So time goes by. I'm kind of bummed and whatnot. And, it's crazy how life works. This is during COVID. And then like, we're coming out of COVID and people are hitting me up trying to figure out drills. And I'm like, man, I have this idea to share all this stuff with you guys, but I just can't put it into action yet. Then, fast forward, it's COVID. We're coming out of COVID and me and my wife get on a game show and we win. So all of a sudden I have this money and I'm like, well, I got to do it now. There's no excuse. So that's got the ball rolling and, got it developed and, we're still marketing it like crazy. We still got to do that, but it took some years to get the app developed. We're still going through like improvements and whatnot, but it took about a year or two just to get it developed and get it the right way. And just, now we have it's in the spot where we got a nice little MVP. We're looking for, more investments to expand upon it, but it's a really good app. It's a really good tool for, people of all ages and, skill levels. Like I'm on there, my wife's on there, my 7-year-old daughter's on there showing what she does. Cause a lot of times you'll get you see a lot of parents who want to get their kids involved in sports early, but they don't know how. So they can go in the app, search beginner, and all the beginner drills will show up. So you'll see my daughter on there doing ladder stuff. She can't reach the basket yet, but that doesn't mean she can't work on her footwork, her ball handling, her coordination. She can do all that stuff still. So it's a way for people to use it as a tool for that as well. So it was a process as far as getting it. And it took years. I mean, it's still in progress. So, but it's not something that I would like nowadays. You go to, one of these apps and type in how you want it to work and it, pops out something. It was very, very like grassrootsy. Like a lot of it was my drills at first and just like I wanted it to people to feel like the average person can go on there and contribute to the basketball community. You don't have to be always have to be some, NBA coach or player development coach. You can be, hey, I'm a kid. I work out every single day. This is what I do to work on my handle. And a lot of people, gravitate towards that.
So do you see yourself using, I mean, I know you've invested a lot of money into the app, but do you see yourself using Perplexity to kind of further it on, number one?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, we definitely want to incorporate, I mean, you have to nowadays with AI, there's so many things that can be done. So we're definitely looking on ways to do that, to make it more functional and just to improve it using all these other AI tools. So that's what we're in the process of now, just because people are so used to using AI that we have to incorporate into our app as well.
I'm saying, number two, what would you tell a person like, man, I could go to YouTube and see so-and-so doing these drills. Why am I going to HOOPr specifically?
I say that I get that all the time. And I think with HOOPr, it's a community because it's more than just drills. You can network with other players. Like I said, I'm connected with people all over the world who can see exactly what I do. It's more curated. So I can say, hey, these are and I can, make custom workouts. So I have a bunch of drills on there. I have my custom workouts. The people that follow me can see exactly the workouts I do. So I have one called like my fitness workouts. I live by a dam. So I do a lot of jumping, which could be box jumps, but I do a lot of workouts on there to stay in shape. I'm a shooting coach. So I do a lot of my shooting drills on there. So it's more curated, I think. We have a feature called Teams as well, where it's basically like groups, but for AAU coaches, you can put all your players on one team and you can pretty much coach them all week long, all year long without having to physically be there, which I love as a tool because my kids in California or, kids that I train here privately, I train a kid once a week on Saturdays and I can say, hey, maybe I'm missing this Saturday, or I can say, hey, go to the HOOPr app. This is what you're going to do for the week. And I could show them and it could be anybody. So I don't have to be with somebody to train them. I can be with somebody in Texas, China, New York, South America, and say, hey, this is what I do. And this is how it works. Whereas YouTube and those other platforms are very like one way. This is, I think, two way because we're both collaborating on it.
Now you have connections overseas too for the people who you have. How did you kind of get that going? Are they talking in their native tongue to reach the global market?
What? It was an accident. It's not something I really planned on doing or even like reaching out to yet. I wanted to really grow my base here. But and if I'm being honest, I don't know how the people that are seeing it. We do some marketing like social media and whatnot, but I'll be on there and I'll see China. I'll see like guys from Angola, South Africa, Germany, Switzerland, Russia. I'm like, how are you guys finding out about this? They're adding drills. And I'm like, wow, you guys are doing some stuff. And the cool thing is, I really like it because people are showing like the different like products and tools they use. Like they'll use like shooting things or gloves, or like the dribble stick is something that we have on there, which I never really seen before. But we have a user who created a product called the dribble stick, which I think you can get online actually, and it just helps you with the dribbling. So seeing that kind of stuff with China, that's a market that we're really trying to plug into. It's because I work with a guy who's on our team kind of who go to China every summer so often and brings the pro teams over there. And that's a huge basketball fan base, like 500 million plus fans over there. So that's a market we're really trying to get into. So that one's a little more intentional. But the other countries, they're just finding us in the app stores and, just searching us and just finding us. And a lot of it in the States is more word of mouth, but the other countries, they see it. They're just, talking about it, which is great.
Do you think in America we are, as a collective, I know in Europe it could be a little different, but do you think in America that we are still ahead of everybody training wise, like China, Africa? I know they got the BAL over there.
Yeah. You know what? I was listening to I forgot the name of the podcast, but I was listening to somebody the other day talking about this, about how people are under the impression that the Europeans are so much further ahead when it comes to training. And he brought up an interesting quote. He said, if their training is so well, then why is it there's so many like one-offs with these great players? We have our Lucas, we have our, Jokic's and people like that, but there's just them. Why is there not like a factory of these people coming out over and over again? Whereas here, every year you see a new class of athletes who are just incredibly skilled. So I'm like, That's pretty interesting that we can replicate our training so well that we can each year we see a better class of usually players coming out with AJ and Cooper who just came out and just VJ Edgecombe, like these guys are legit. When we just had Anthony Edwards still coming in to the shine, and Shea and all these younger guys, but we're right there. So I think it's a misconception thinking that the Europeans are so much further ahead. I do agree with their plan of training more than games. I think we have way too many games here. I don't know how we solve that. Maybe it's just me being a trainer, but I do think we need to focus more on skill development. But we're not doing as bad of a job as some people will lead you to believe, as far as them being so far ahead with training, because they come out in the NBA, but they're not coming in droves to where like that's all we see in the NBA. So
you talk. What about African League?
That I think that's going to be a heavy thing that we lean on, as far as especially what they did in the Olympics, with seeing the talent over there and the size, and just like the African players that are on the app. You just see them working in the conditions they have to work out in. I'm just like, man, like I don't know how you guys do it. So it's just like I think there's a lot of potential over there, and I think that's something that we're NBA and we're definitely going to tap into more, as you see the kids coming over to play in colleges and get more developed and whatnot. But I think that's going to be the next pool that we tap into as far as the NBA goes. A lot of talent over there.
How big do you see just your brand? I know HOOPr is just a big part of it, but how big do you see your brand going when you sit back late at night when everybody else in the house is asleep?
Man, I think about it all the time, and I think about how it helps people, and the emails and text messages I've gotten from people who are just like, you know what, I love this app. What can I do to help out? And just seeing the feedback we've gotten, I think our biggest thing is just not many people know about it, but when they do see it and they get on it, and they're just like, to have all that access, and it's free as well. And it's a social media app. It's not just a basketball training app. We really encourage connecting with people, because, who knows what other people are doing in other countries. You connect with them. Maybe as you get older, that could be a job for you later down the line. You know what I mean? But we really encourage like connecting and growth, and just sharing what you've learned, because as people share with you, I think that's one thing that separates it apart. So I see it as being like the new basketball hub, like the niche of social media, but of just like basketball. So I look at it as our TikTok, Instagram, but basketball. We don't really have that yet. And the fact that it's not like highlight based, is based for the people who really hoop, which is hundreds of millions. We have a home. So I think we're trying to get all these people consolidated into this one basketball hub and platform. And I just think, like I said, when it's late at night, I'm just like, man, what this can grow to is incredible. So it's just getting there, but it takes time and patience for sure.
Absolutely, man. The world favors the man who hustles and grinds. I'm going to bring on my co-host, Naj Wilkins, in the background. I know he's got some questions for you, man. This is my guy, Naj.
What's going on, Naj? How you doing?
You on mute, brother.
I'm good, Allan. How's everything going, brother?
Going well. Thanks for having me on this.
Yes, sir. No problem at all, man. So I know you was giving a spiel a little bit about, obviously being where you were from, obviously Orange County, kind of making it, to where kind of an all-in-one. People can come, like you just said, with your app, not just, just hooping, but also social media, and try to give them the platform. So where do you feel like, in that standpoint, do you feel like media does a good job with these kids, getting them out there with exposure? Do you feel like there's another layer that maybe we can unlock? A lot of times we see guys go viral, Allan, on Instagram and blow up. Is that good for the game? Like this, what's your take on that?
Yeah, and that is a great question. And my problem is we live in the highlight era. And that's the problem I think that we're having, is everybody's like, oh, look at this cross, look at this highlight. I just saw DeJounte Murray. I don't know if you guys saw that last night. He crossed dude up, fell, hit a three, and he's looking at him, right? So kids see that, they want to implement it or imitate it. I get it. But one thing I think that draws people to our app is, at least for me personally, is after basketball season, my favorite time of year, because you see all the players work out. Every now and then they'll post what they do, but a lot of times you see like the Shays, and one guy I always talk about is Russell Westbrook, and these guys that are just great athletes, and you've always wanted to know, like, what do they do to get in that kind of shape? How do they work on their game? you see one guy get better from 1 year to the next. You're like, well, what did he do? You know what I mean? And to have that access, I think helps everyone. For one, I think it gives players, it gives them a more human side. You know, it's not always glitz and glamour. It's like they're in the trenches like everyone else. And I don't think enough people see that side of these athletes. They see the clothes, they see the highlights, they see the money, the flash. But once you can identify and see a kid running, or an NBA player running sprints like you do, he's at the beach like you do, he lifts weights like you do. Oh, I want to imitate that player. Now it's a different way for players to gain a whole new audience instead of just seeing one side of the game. And I think that's the greatest part about HOOPr. And like I said, that's my favorite part. I'm a huge LeBron fan. I love watching LeBron's workout because I'm like, he's 21 years in. What is he doing to come? I'm 43. He's younger than me. And I'm like, how is he still playing at this level? And then to see it, I'm like, oh man, look at all the work he's putting in. Like, people don't see that enough. Kids don't see that enough. And it makes you want to look at people in a different light when you say, maybe, you know, people always say, oh, LeBron's a flop or whatever. That's why I don't like. But I'm like, do you see the work this guy puts in and day out? I saw something about JJ Redick talking about why he retired. And he said, because the offseason's too tough. So I'm like, well, what is he doing in the offseason to make it so tough? And then he shows it. I'm like, damn, imagine if all these other kids that really hoop got to see this side of JJ Redick or other players that you've never heard of. The player who's number 13, 14, and 15 never gets any burn, but is working his ass off every single day, you know, and to see that, I think to give that insight into players and to athletes, you know, we have a couple college kids on there, and I always tell my younger kids to say, hey, you know, if you want to see what a Division I player does in the offseason, go to HOOPr, look at his page. Are you willing to put yourself through that? You know, and it definitely separates people. It gives you a different light on how to look at these guys, I think, when you realize they're not just showing up to games. You know, they're all like dedicating their whole life to this craft. And I think, you know, it just helps kids and help people understand, you know, what it takes to be an elite person. So I think that having that insight is a separator from our app and everybody else's.
For sure. And then staying on that tip, Allan, I want to ask, what's your take on, you've been training a whole bunch of athletes. What's your take on these players maybe just specialize in one sport? Like I said, basketball's become basically year round, right? You know what I'm saying? You got spring, you even got summer. And then we see these crazy injuries like Dame Lillard, torn Achilles. So how do you think in the training perspective people can avoid that maybe?
Yeah, you know, I think I'm going against the grain when I say I don't agree with people playing basketball year round. You know, I'm older. When we played basketball when it was basketball season. That was it. And then we would work out outside of that, right? Like, we're not playing 100. These kids will play more games in the summer. They'll play 100 games in the summer from May to September, you know, which is insane. And you got to figure the toll that's taken on your body. And so I'm a huge proponent of like cross sport training, just because you train different parts of your body. I think a lot of times these injuries come not because you haven't trained it, but because you've overtrained it. Even me, I tore my ACL, right? So I tore my ACL off of doing a regular pivot into a jump shot. But you know how many times I've done that? I did it probably thousands of times. And one time I did the same move in the game, tore my ACL. So I think, you know, when you play a different sport, you work different muscle groups, and it actually prevents injury down the line. I know most trainers and AAU coaches don't want to hear that, but I mean, I think it helps, man. It helps you with balance. And also, you don't want kids to burn out. You know, I see nowadays, there's 8-year-olds playing AAU, you know, by the time they're 13, they're already over basketball. So I think that's a problem is, you know, we have our seasons. I get it, but let them try something else. My kids are having a bunch of different sports, but you know, they're all training for basketball. They're doing taekwondo, t-ball, soccer, but me knowing that's leading them to be better basketball players because balance, coordination, hand-eye coordination, like all that stuff works together. But a lot of people are so hyper focused on, you know, okay, you got to get more reps in, you got to get more games in. But I think that hurts them in the long run.
I would agree with you. All right, let's talk about the global game, Allan. No, go ahead. What did you say?
No, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was going to ask you about just the global game. You hit on a really good point. You said you feel like there is a misconception when it comes to European ball and how far behind we are. And obviously, you know, AAU is a part of that. I don't know if Bacon asked you that, but what is your overall take on that? Do you feel like it's hurting the game? Because we're seeing great products, though, is the reason why I asked, right? You look at Cooper Flag, AJ DeBonsta this year, Darren Peters to a degree. I mean, everything he got going on. But we're seeing like one of the best freshman classes. A lot of them came from AAU.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think?
You know, it's hard to tell because for every AJ, there's, you know, a million kids who aren't that. You know what I mean? So it's hard to tell because like you're gonna get people who break through the cracks or break through the field, and that's gonna happen just off of sheer numbers. So I don't know if it's necessarily a good thing, but I mean, I love this freshman class and I do think it's helping. But I think my main issue is just with the volume of games. I have a problem with. I think the problem that's going on with AAU as well is it's trickling to NIL and colleges, the people transferring when things get hard. I think that's doing more damage than, you know, basketball. It's going to hurt them in real life. I think that's the thing we really got to solve is the portal. I think is hurting us, and we'll see as, you know, it pans out. It's still very new, but kids nowadays are just like, well, I'll just leave. I'm not going to work for a starting spot. Somebody will want me. You know, and I think one thing that makes players better is just going through adversity. And we've somehow like removed that from basketball. You know what I mean? It's like any hint of it, you know, it's going to college now has become one, it's not just recruiting a player, you're like literally investing in a player because you're giving them money, right? So it's a different game. And so I don't know if it's good or bad right now. It feels like I'm a little nervous about it, but I just think the biggest thing I think with me is just having players the ability to just transfer so much. I think that hurts the game. But the AAU and the product that we're seeing, these kids are better than I've ever seen. Like it's unbelievable. So I don't know if that's just all AAU or just these, you know, one-offs or, you know, what you see a lot of nowadays is well is
Is it lagging on your end, Naj?
Yeah, it was
NBA
like
players, their kids are so good, which is, you know, it's a whole generation of, you know, oh, sorry, yeah. But yeah, so, but yeah, the AAU thing, I think, like I said, just to kind of recap it, I think it's doing well. We got to somehow manage the games, having too many games, more training, and just, you know, transferring, I think, is going to be a problem, I think, down the line as well.
if you were in charge, Allan, it's only if you were charged. We talking hypothetical. Only
Yeah.
hypothetical. What would you do in order to kind of buffer that to a degree of what you just said in terms of the transfer portal? Would you do a one-time transfer, one time while you're in college, a couple times? Like what would you do if you were in charge?
That's a good question. I think limiting how many times you can transfer, and I hate to say it's going backwards, but I think when I played, if you transferred, you had to sit out a year. So you weren't just going to transfer just because. It had to be like a serious reason to transfer. I didn't play at all in college. Like I barely played. I could have transferred. I had to sit out a year and it just wasn't worth it, you know? So I think it helped me to say, okay, I'm going to work my butt off this offseason. But you know, nowadays I get it with the NCAA wanting to make money off of these players and all that stuff. But for me, I think that rule helped a lot. You know, saying you have to weigh your options when you're going to transfer, because now I think you could transfer and even play the same year.
Yes.
That's probably something I would do, is just saying, hey, you know, I'd bring back the sit out probably. Then kids aren't really into that, but I like, you know, having a team and I can see a kid progress from freshman to sophomore to junior year. I think we need that back in college basketball. I guess you're one and done. That's cool. But some of these kids are transferring for no reason. You know what I mean? Like it's not helping anything. So they just want a better situation or more money. So it's just like, it's hard to judge. But I think with transferring, it's becoming a little bit of a problem because people like right around now, the portal's going to be open and it's just going to be a flood of people in there looking for a new school. And just like, wait, you were just playing. Or there was a coach, the Miami coach a couple of years ago was like, they went to the Elite Eight or something like that. And 9 of his guys transferred the next year. So it's like, man, yeah, how does that happen? Right. So yeah, I think if they knew they had to sit out, they probably wouldn't be so quick to transfer.
I agree. That's a great point. I think they need to implement that. Like you said, and it's somebody said, transfer for no reason. Oh, this coach is going to pay me $1 million, $1,000. Yeah.
Yeah, for real. I'm the wrong person to say it too, because had it been me and I had that opportunity, who knows? These kids are 18 and 19, and I know a lot of kids are getting now the recruiting. When you recruit a kid, it's like, okay, how much am I going to make here? That's part of the question now, which is crazy.
Nah, you're right, 100%. And then
Yeah.
on another note, I want to ask you just about your journey a little bit. I know obviously you talked about it with Bacon, but how far is the game of basketball taking you? I know you have your app. It's been in Asia. It's been all over Europe. And you talked about the word of mouth being kind of big. So, what has the big game of basketball just meant to you, or what has it been able to do for you?
Man, it's shaped my whole life. Like my attitude, my grit, my grind, my like just working hard, and just like it shaped who I am, I think. And I think that's the greatest thing about sports, especially a sport like basketball, where it's a team sport. And the fact, I think for me, I didn't play a lot in college, and I think that's a lot. Like I worked so hard to get to Division 1. I got there, and when I didn't play, it was the most humbling thing in my entire life, right? So, because I'm thinking, where you as rise and progress in your basketball career, the competition gets harder and harder, right? And when you're younger, you think you're the best, you're the best, you're the best. Then you get to somewhere where it's like, okay, this guy's the best over where he's at, and then you guys are kind of competing against each other, and that goes. But it was humbling. And I didn't think I didn't play because I wasn't good enough. I mean, everybody has excuses for why they didn't play, but what it all boiled down to is I didn't fit, and really helped me like, okay, what am I going to do next? Am I going to just give up or whatever? But I had the attitude where like, nah, I'm surrounded by people who are working so hard that it just rubs off on you, And then, so when I was done playing in college, I still like to work out. And luckily we were a really good team, and we always had scouts at our practices. And there was a guy who said he saw me in practice and liked me and offered me a tryout. And then that led to me playing for another 7 or 8 years. Played on the pro team in Santa Barbara, where I met my wife. So basketball, set me up to have a family, and then now I'm living in Vegas. So, so it really, it wasn't a journey that I thought like I never would have guessed I played in China. When I'm 2 China tours, I played in Singapore. Never ever would have thought that would happen when I was 16 years old, So being able to do that and meet people and say, hey, you know what, this is basketball is something that people it's more of a tool, like a learning tool, right? You take what you learn in basketball, and the goal is to apply it to the rest of your life, right? Because you can only play for so long. So what do you do with all the knowledge you've accumulated that you learn, right? You learn discipline, you learn how to be a team player, you learn work ethic, you learn all that stuff. So you take, if you're coached right, you take all that stuff and you apply it to your real life. So I think that's what I've been able to do, and I still strive to do. There's things I got to get better at. There's things that I want to do, but you know what? I don't have fear of it anymore, because I know I've been through the trenches through playing basketball.
Period. My last thought about the Bacon, if you were to tell your younger self, or you were to give advice for all the great things you've accomplished and you've done, what would you say? Like I said, building this app and kind of, just building this foundation that you have, what advice would you say?
I would say keep grinding, because I think there comes a time where stuff is hard, right? There's distractions, there's other things you can do, and I would tell myself, I'd say, hey, just keep grinding, man, because, there's times where, I probably didn't pick the right choice, where I'm like, man, I should have probably worked out more, or I could have, I wasn't as tired as I thought I was, you know what I mean? And you look back on those workouts and those sessions or those games where you're just like, man, I probably could have given a little bit more. So I would probably tell myself, keep grinding, and just keep pushing through all the hard stuff, and just don't give up with it, because, you can apply that to everything you do in life. Even with this app, I've been doing this app for 5-6 years. But, just keep pushing and pushing. And when you break through, it'll all be worth it.
Well said, brother.
Yeah.
We want to touch a little bit on your overseas career as well. Going somewhere you don't even know the language, you're trying to figure out everything you do. So how was that transition, and how did you kind of find yourself?
Yeah, like I said, I never really saw myself. I wanted to do it. I didn't think I would ever be good enough, and then I started playing, and I was like, you know what, I'm decent, So the first time I went to China was on a tour. I played in the league called the IBL, Semi-Pro League. And they were like, okay, we're taking the best players from our league, and we're going to China to play against the CBA team. The CBA is the NBA of China. and I got selected for it. And the hopes was to go there, tour, get another job there. I think I never played in Europe, but China was tough because the language barrier was crazy. Like you have to have your interpreter everywhere. Like you can't do anything. So you can't even try to guess, the language. So you feel it's really humbling, kind of like having to point to pictures and like, having to depend on people so much. For me, the hardest part was just getting used to the grind of travel. Everything was so spread out there that, we would take an hour bus, 2-hour flight to an hour train to get to our next destination. And, oh yeah, by the way, you guys play later on tonight. And that was a really hard grind for me, is just doing that. As always, when you play, semi-pro and, in other countries, you're usually living out of a hotel. So that always takes some getting used to. So, just being confined to that space and not being able to really like go anywhere. But, you got to love the game. I think that was the biggest thing, is just saying, hey, this is my opportunity, and just treating it, like your next opportunity to do something great. A lot of pressure with that though. But it was fun. It was fun. It's an opportunity I won't forget, but it was definitely not as easy as people may say when they say, oh, I'm going to play overseas. It's not like I think people think.
So what would you say to like a young man who's getting ready to graduate college or out of high school? I think my route may be overseas, then NBA or whatever the case. Well, what advice would you give to them to kind of how to navigate the process?
I would say you have to love the game. I think there's a misconception that people think they can go from college, go overseas and make all tons of money and be fine. That's not the case. Most of the time you're going to have to work yourself up, unless you're like one of these high profile players. But the average college guy who's got an overseas opportunity is probably going to go there not making much money. So you have to love the game. I would tell a person, be like, are you sure you want to do this? Because what's going to happen is you can say, hey, I can go overseas. But with me, I was like, I could stay here and work a regular job, minimum wage, and make what I'm making overseas. So you have to like love the game. Your living condition isn't going to be great probably. And then you have to get used to a whole new environment. You won't be by your family, your friends, your time zone's even different. So you won't even get to talk to people like you want to. So you really have to love the game. I think that's the first thing I would tell somebody. It's like, are you sure you want to do this? Because also, if you could do that for years, come back, and then now you got to enter the job market. And then what do you really have to show for yourself? If you didn't make, that kind of money playing overseas, it's like, okay, now what do you do? You know what I mean? So it's really got to be something that you love. I think you have to go in there with a plan of what you're going to do afterwards. It's not always I'm going to play overseas, make all this money, come back and just live. That rarely happens. So I think you really have to have a plan for afterwards too, if you're going to go over there.
How do you think it benefited you doing that?
I think just seeing it and knowing like there's another level to the game. Like I said, there's people who will do anything for it and just love it and want to play and improve. For me, when I went, I was there for a couple months, didn't end up getting picked up full time. So for me, it was just like, all right, back to the drawing board. Let's keep working at it, And I think at the time I was just so caught up in the moment. I didn't really have like okay, here's my goal. Here's where I want to get to. I was just trying to get my next job. You know what I mean? I think as a younger person, you really have to have that goal and that all planned out. Because a lot of it is so short-sighted where it's just like, I need to find my next contract. For me, also, I think in college, a lot of my teammates and people I knew were playing for a certain amount of money. And I'm like, oh, I want to play for that. But I didn't have the resume to do that. So I was like, I don't think I had it in me to say, hey, I got to go play in this Division 5 in this country and make nothing. Is it worth it? So I think people have to understand that too.
So what do you think would be an ideal plan to kind of like do this and still prepare?
Yeah, I think just knowing like, hey, you know what, this is going to be a process. You're going to have to work your way up. So if you go into it knowing that and having that mindset, like, okay, I'm playing in this country, I'm making X amount of dollars, I'm like Division 3 or whatever, I need to work myself up. Basketball is like anywhere else. You got to build a resume. So you got to go into it knowing that. I didn't know that. I'm just thinking you go out there and play, but it's a process. And if you have that goal in mind of maybe a certain amount of money you want to make, a country you want to play in, I know players who have played in the country and have, stayed there forever. One of my college teammates played in Poland, I think, and met his wife there and stayed out there for a little bit, but he ended up moving back. But I think you just got to have the long game plan ready for it. But yes, it's definitely just having like something in place.
100%, brother. As we kind of come to the close, I'm gonna throw it back to Naj as well.
Yeah.
You could have went on any platform to kind of talk about your store and your business, your app. I'm saying, what made you decide to come on to Just as a News podcast?
I like your guys' conversations, and it's just the realness of it. I think sometimes I've been on a couple podcasts, and sometimes I think some podcasters like to have people on to talk about their show or their situation. Being on with you guys and saying, hey, we really have genuine interest in learning about you and what you do, I think was a huge upside for me to connect and reach out to you guys.
100%. Much love. I'm gonna throw it back to Naj.
Yeah.
No, 100%. No, I think you got a great story to tell. And correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to mischaracterize you or anything, sir. You are African American, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. On that tip, I think you mentioned it, but we're kind of, in the same boat you maybe were 6 years ago, like kind of starting your new business, application, and it's doing really well. So, what advice would you give those that are maybe on the fence, Allan, of I kind of want to start this business, but I'm unsure, like as you just said, in basketball, I feel like the same, principles apply. Like you're gonna have your ups and downs. You're gonna have those. What advice would you just give in order to just, like you said, just grind it out and get to that success of what you might not see year one, but maybe year two or year three or even down the line?
That's the best thing, is knowing that it's not going to be overnight. I was listening to a show with Ice Cube, and he actually said, if you're going to go into business, and he's like, don't plan on making a cent for the first 5 years. It's like if you know that going into it and you still want to do it, then pursue it or whatever. But that was his thing. He's like, yeah, you just got to know going in there is going to be a grind. I mean, for me, like I said, it's been 5-6 years, but it's something I love to do, and I know that it's going to help people. Having that, I don't want to say like calling, but just having that dedication and motivation to say, I'm going to see this through. I have my goal. I want to keep pushing it until I reach it. There's nothing stopping me but myself. So if you're a younger guy who's getting into business for the first time, or just like, trying to figure out if you should keep going and keep pushing, I would say try it, because one thing with me is, I think what this app is, I felt like if I didn't do it, somebody else is going to do it. How many times has there been a business or something you've seen, you're just like, man, I thought of that too, but I didn't do it. You know what I mean? No matter what the product is, I think of some dumb stuff and I'd be like, oh man, somebody actually came out with that. I thought about that too. And that's something I felt like would haunt me forever. If I like stopped doing this and somebody were to pick it up and take it to like a whole nother level, that would bother me. But yeah, that's something that motivates me too, is I feel like, and I also feel like with my position, my situation is a little bit unique, because I feel like everything I've done in life has somehow led up to this moment. I shared the game show situation earlier. I just feel like it's all kind of led up to this. And if you think about it, no matter what you're doing in life, you're where you're supposed to be, right? And when you're a business or whatever you're learning, you're supposed to be there, for a reason, and take everything as a learning opportunity. I don't really believe in failures. I just believe, hey, I learned from that. As long as you can learn from it. It's kind of cliche. Everybody says it, but it's so true. It's like, you learn something from it, even if it's, okay, I'm never going to do that again. That's good enough. You know what I'm saying? So I would say go that route for sure. To keep pushing, make sure you learn from something, and just know it's going to take some time. Overnight stuff is all a myth. People don't always see the stuff that happens before that.
100%. Last thing, we'll let you go. Biggest lesson you've learned in business over the course of you obviously operating your your business and everything you have going. And I don't know if you read, but like what books would you recommend in general for people, to continue to kind of sharpen their mental intellect?
Yeah, I would say first, sorry, go back to the first question. My bad. I have my bookcase right there, and I'm looking at, trying to think of some ones I would have people look at. So can you repeat the first one? Okay, the biggest lesson I learned as an entrepreneur is nobody's going to love your product, your job, your business as much as you do. I don't care who they are. Like, it's just not going to happen. Like, it's especially it's your baby, right? Your idea, it's nobody's going to love it as much as you. So you got to realize, If something doesn't happen or counting on other people, like, it doesn't mean the same to them as it means to you. And that's with any business. That's Jeff Bezos, Zuckerberg, all those guys. Like, nobody loves those, Facebook and Amazon as much as those guys do. So just know that going into business, like, hey, this is your baby. Like, you got to treat it as such. And I would say also, support is probably the biggest thing in anything that you decide to do in life. You got to have some kind of support system. It's hard to do anything by yourself. So don't be afraid to ask for help, lean on your support, and seek it out. Seek mentorship, seek communities, online communities, social media, bounce some ideas off people. That's a big thing, and just not being afraid to like talk to people or do things. For me, I'm an introvert, so going to networking events is something that like I've hated doing. But if I want to be successful at what I do, I got to put myself out there, right? So don't be afraid to do that kind of stuff. I hated networking events, and I'm hosting a networking event in Summer League. So that's just what you got to do. So books wise, let me see any that stick out in my head. I read a book called Never Split the Difference, which I like. It's more of a sales negotiation one, but my favorite is anything David Goggins writes. So you guys are familiar with David Goggins.
Yes, we are.
He's got a book, his book, what's it called? Can't Hurt Me, or Never, what's the other one called? Never Finished. Read a David Goggins book. That will motivate you to run through a brick wall. I would read those, man. If you follow him on Instagram, like even for working out, like I'm older, so working out's hard. But if you need motivation, I'm telling you, nobody does it like him. So I would say read that, just to get your mind right, motivated, kind of make you feel like you can do anything. Because if he can make it through what he did, then you can do it too. So yeah, definitely, I would definitely suggest those.
100%. But I know you are doing you're doing networking gig. I won't say gig, but a networking opportunity in the Summer League. So if you want to plug that, if anybody sees it, be a part of it, how can they get in contact with you?
Absolutely. So we are hosting an event called the Full Court Connect Mixer. It's an event for athletes, coaches, agents, scouts. It's basically the legit, like, down and dirty basketball community. If you've been to Summer League and gone to some of these networking events, they're very corporate. They really don't have a lane for athletes and people just trying to get on, and expand and grow their careers. So this is for those people who are just looking to grow their careers within basketball. So it's a really cool mixer event. Like I said, it's going to be a lot of athletes there, and we're just going to have a place for them to network, get to know each other, mentorships, things like that. It's something that I think was lacking. It's just an idea I thought of after going to Summer League last year and being like, hey, I've been to 5 networking events. Where's like all the people that are playing? What are they doing? There's nothing for them. So with NBA Summer League being basically a big career fair, and the only opportunity for the athletes to get a better job playing, this is a great opportunity for them to come out, get to network with actual coaches and agents and other trainers and people in the basketball field, and kind of grow something and grow businesses and things like that. So that's Summer League. It's called the Full Court Connect Mixer. You can reach me on LinkedIn. You can reach me on Instagram, AP12, AYEPEE12. And then you could also reach me on HOOPr. Don't forget to download the HOOPr app, HOOPr, on basketball app, and we're on Android and iOS. So definitely check it out. Add me on there. We'll connect, share some basketball, knowledge, and go from there.
I'm gonna say, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the man, the myth, the legend, the man that's been from California all the way to Vegas. That's coming to near you. Allan Purnell, we appreciate you coming on, man.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it, man. I appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. We'll stay connected, brother.
All right, thanks, man.
Mm-hmm.
All right, there you have it, man. You know what I mean? Connected with Allan on LinkedIn after the interview with Coach D. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think he hit me up, and I saw that he was connected with her. So I hit him up a DM, and just I always try to send my email, send the messages when people connect with me, because you never know. And you know what I'm saying, it evolved into this. I think it was a great guest, had a lot of good information. So yeah, man. What was your thoughts on Brother Allen, man?
Yeah, it seemed like well put together. Obviously, what I'm saying, well thought out, got a whole app going. Just seemed like he just at a pretty good point, man. I would say definitely what he's doing. Um thought some stuff out and is trying to continue to expand, I think, from his experience. And I think he got a lot of gems that people can learn from tonight, in hooping journeys and different things like that people can apply, man. So I thought it was a pretty powerful story.
Well said, brother. We're over an hour in the interview. We'll hop right back into the topics and knock some of these off the list. So Caleb Ho, I was talking about at the beginning of the show. 5-star Caleb Ho has gone to Arizona. At first, I was thrown off by it. I thought he was going to stay in state, stay in the SEC. But I mean, knowing what we know who we know, man. We know Caleb he understands the business side of basketball, and what better place than Arizona, who's got a lot of freshmen doing their thing. Got Bryce James over there. So I'm not saying this is why, but Arizona is a big brand. Aaron Gordon and many others have come out of there. So just, I'm saying, did you when you saw him commit to Arizona, what were your initial thoughts?
A little surprised at the beginning of it, but then again, not really. You look at their season this year, Braden Burries. You look at obviously Koa Pete, very successful as true freshmen coming in, and they continue to surround that group with the pieces they need. And I think you look at the brand of Arizona, like the Stanley Johnsons. You go back and think about the DeAndre Aytons. I know that was under Sean Miller, but they have a pedigree of getting guys to the league. Is it to the same level of a Kentucky? No. Or what John Calipari has done, or Duke, or anything like that? No. But Arizona has still been at the top, and I think he saw, and they're one of the top teams in college basketball next year. I think they got a top guard or big man that's coming in next year's class as well. So he's like, hey, I can go there, be pretty much the point, or be the main ball handler like Braden Burries this past year, and potentially make my mark and get to the league. And I'm gonna play big time basketball in the Big 12. So why not put myself in front of that opportunity?
100%. Great move by him. I know he's gonna be a star in college basketball, and I'm assuming, and definitely the same thing when it gets to NBA. I believe Caleb Poole is gonna be one of those ones. I think this younger crops coming in is gonna bring a lot of that grit back to the NBA. And we'll talk about, the uptick in altercations on the court, as we move into the show, if it's good for the game of basketball or not. But and to remain in the high school segment, 6A championship, I believe it's tomorrow. Wheeler will go up against the Pebblebrook Falcons, who are now in the championship for the first time in a while. They got some killers over there. Zaire Brown, who we talked about on the show many of times. Max McNeil and Jalen Humphrey may be one of the best defenders in basketball in the state of Georgia, man. Do you think they have a shot to make it close or to win this game tomorrow against Wheeler? Or Saturday, excuse me.
You could definitely say they don't have a shot, but at the same time, look at Wheeler and Newton last year. Wheeler was way more talented, and Newton gave them their best shot towards the end of the game, and Wheeler had to pull it out. So I don't want to sleep on Pebblebrook going into this game. Good defenders. It's going to take the full team. You actually got Zaire Brown, who's a good playmaker. With the ball in his hands, he can score at a high level, but you're going to have to defend. I think that's what it comes down to. Can you defend Colvin Landrew? Can you defend Kevin Savage at a high level throughout the game? I think it's going to be some of the biggest questions for them. That's easier said than done. But I think it's a situation where, they're going to have to, I think, start the game off hot. Not that doesn't always sustain you, but I think in terms of the psyche, they got to start off with a hot start, kind of hit Wheeler in the mouth. What I'm saying, if they want to have a chance, like, up 10-2 run to start the game, like, yeah, we here. We didn't come here to play. And sometimes that could throw off the psyche. Will it last the whole game? Maybe not. But that could be something that gets you going early, and then you can show Wheeler, yeah, y'all gonna be in a dogfight. You know what I'm saying? We can go all the way down to the stretch. So easier said than done. I was still going Wheeler, but if Pebblebrook start the game off right, I think they can probably pull it out.
Yeah, I agree. I think this game is going to be a lot closer with the average basketball fan in Georgia may think. If you know Pebblebrook basketball, you know Coach Washington. You know he coaches with that grit. They come from Mableton. They don't have all the plush. Though they have a new gym, which is very nice, by the way. I think they'll come in. They got some defenders, and they got young men who can knock down the shots and they can rebound. So to me, it's gonna be a coaching battle, and it's gonna be a game where who's gonna make those big time shots. And I think that's why I think yourself and others will lean towards Wheeler because they have Coben Landrew, who has consistently knocked down shots at an efficient level and at a high level. But I think this would be a great state championship. And I'm hoping Pepperbrook pulls it out because you know what I'm saying. Because I know Coach Washington just a little bit, but I think Coach I think Willer's gonna pull this one out, man. So we'll keep you
I'm with you, brother.
100%, man. Great minds think alike, brother. Yes, sir. Sip of the water out the jug. Good Publix brand. Good Publix brand. Yes, sir. Purified water.
Maybe we can get a sponsor.
Yeah. Hit us up. Moving on to 5A basketball. We got Woodward versus Alexander. This is one where I'm gonna say Woodward, man. I'm gonna say Woodward. I know Alexander's got some athletic wings, but I see you kind of like you feeling the same way too.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to sleep on them, but it's like I think Woodward's a little bit like Miles Hayes hits the game winner last time out.
Close.
You got Jarvis, you got Billy Lewis-Scano, who's a top 10, I think, player in the class. That's just gonna be tough to beat for 4 quarters, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think at that point, it's a great matchup. Don't get me, hey, that's a great matchup.
Great matchup.
I just think Woodward getting that momentum at Georgia State, winning that game. I bet ain't gonna be fine. Now again, we gotta take into consideration they is playing in Macon, and them nets ain't always the best. The rims ain't always the best.
Right.
So Alexander, same kind of thing. Like jump up on them early, don't play around, But I think talent level wise, gotta go Alexander. I mean, Woodward.
Yeah, you gotta go Woodward. I don't know, man. Like I think if they didn't have Billy was saying no, you know what I mean? It's probably different. Because then I'm gonna have to have Pops Gregory, Pops Dunson. You know what I mean? You're gonna have to get that EYB. You're gonna have to get that 3 SSB bag, but we're gonna need a 35-point night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We bring the big. We trying to get you on the less defensive defender they have. But yeah, I think Bentley is that monkey wrench that kind of like man, he's gonna be able to help out somebody. You know what I mean in front court. And it's gonna make it tough for Pop. So I we'll see, man. I'm not gonna say what I could possibly see, but you know what I mean, that's probably the way they're gonna. Well, somebody's gonna have to be able to ready. Somebody's gonna have to be Alexander ready to shoot, ready to, you know what I mean, knock down and make them pay where Bentley can't help. If they can do that, they got a shot. But they can't do that. This could be a potentially. No, I won't even say that because Alexander, there'd be a lot of good teams at this point. So we'll see, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see. I don't want to count anybody out. I don't want to say anything too egregious. So, man, we got and we talked about with brother Allen, man. I mean, AAU scene. We're gonna talk about some AAU scene here right now. The Georgia Stars, man, are retooling, man. It's good to see the Georgia Stars. I mean, a flagship program in the state of Georgia for a while. Keep players in the house, man. You know what I mean? Especially on the Georgia Stars. So Carrington Moore, McDonough High School, and Cadian Hudson, where's he at now? At Mount Bethel. Cadian's been with the Georgia Stars and they retained him, as well as Langston Hughes wing or guard David Whitaker has signed with them. I believe Carrington and Dave were with Jet Academy last AAU season, man. So for you, Naj, just I mean, how stoked are you? How excited are you to see Georgia Stars? You know what I mean? Stay dominant. You know what I mean? And go get these Peach Jam championships or contend for them.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna do that, I think it comes to last year. I don't know if he's gonna play with them on the circuit, but AJ Williams, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't believe they playing in the championship or anything like that. But they won it all last year. You know what I'm saying? Remember, was playing, I think it was 15U they might have been playing. They won it all. So like that helps you with keeping your talent when you see you're not gonna win everyone every single year because it's different mock-ups, different teams, different players. But if the Stars can continue to do that at a high level, you know what I'm saying, and they can win those 15U, those guys eventually become up to 16U or not, 18U, whatever it may be. After 15U, if you continue to win those guys get older. So they're gonna be going to the upper division. And then they're like, yo, I just want to chip with them, did this in the circuit. Yeah, let me stay there with them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think they could be something big. And I think that's huge for the brand of Georgia Stars and obviously what they're doing. And you get two of these guys. Moore is a little bit underrated, and then Higdon, who's probably going to be considered one of the top players in that class. Everybody knows about him from Mount Bethel. So that, I mean, to me, that's how you get it done, and it'll be a fun circuit to obviously watch them. I even reached out this week, man. I was trying to get a couple of guest stones. I reached out to Sean. I reached out to was it one of the AAU coaches? I think he coached against Caleb Wilson. I was trying to reach out to them and get them on the show too. You know what I'm saying? By the way, I know it's a side note, but just, you know, trying to get in good. Oh, Atlanta Celtics too. I try to reach out to just in terms of the AAU brands, trying to get them on the show.
Yeah, you know, I we're definitely gonna get them on the show for sure. I'm gonna actually reach out to Coach Mark McMillan. So at the top there, first comment. You know, he's always messing with the content. You know, now he did this graphic. I know he got to be super plugged in. You know, just talk to him, chop it up. But I think, you know what I mean, continue to do these, getting clips out, and then when we see him this summer, the spring, summer, and I mean, next play 360 or wherever, you know what I mean, putting, you know what I mean, just to show you popping out, I think it's going to be good. But yeah, we'll definitely get some on the show. And then Coach Wallace, you know what I mean, Coach Wallace coached Georgia Stars, man. So he keep that profile push on his page. You know what I mean?
I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure. I'll look. I won't share the screen. But I'll look at his. Yeah, that's it. Georgia Stars logo. It looks like that at the tip off classic. But look at that Georgia Star on the shirt, man. I'm saying that Georgia Stars brand. I think the Celtics is probably the biggest brand, but the Georgia Stars brand is probably like right here. You know what I mean? What's the big that play for Pace Academy, plays for the Bulls right now?
Wendell Carter.
Yep. Pace Academy, Georgia Stars, graduate. They got so many. You know, what's the name? Chatfield played for the Georgia Stars.
Yes, he did.
So they're, it's like I said, right here. Right to me, I'm gonna take the Georgia Stars program over the Celtics just because I like the whole EYBL mystique, man. You just cannot beat it. And of course, we've been to Peach Jam, was an event, a memory. The couple of days, it's probably something I'll never forget. As an old man, I'll probably talk about it. You know what I mean? Just that magical. I mean, what it means for basketball. You know what I mean? The people that graduate from that circuit and go on and have successful NBA careers. But I'll stop being sentimental now. I'll get out my high horse. But you know what I mean? Like what the Stars are building, what they're continuing to do and bring those young guys in. And kudos to AJ Williams for, you know what I mean, restarting that fire, because the Stars were, and you gotta credit Caden Allen too. You know what I mean? He kind of started, you know, bringing in AJ Williams, because before that, you know, you didn't really hear too much from the Stars. It was a lot of Celtics, Game Lee on the 3SSB side. So definitely want to shout those guys out, man. Moving on to college basketball, man. You know, man, definitely this is one I was ready to get to. Georgia Tech had decided to move on from head coach Damon Stoudemire, I believe after this third or fourth year here in Atlanta. Naj, man, you know what I'm saying? You're in the building, you know what I'm saying? You're inside the McCammons Pavilion talking to the reporters and him at the press conference table, man. Just watching the games, man. Just what are your thoughts about the whole process and the firing?
Yeah, I don't think they were going to move on, but I heard through multiple reports, sources, again, not my what I think. What I heard is that, you know, when they went down against Virginia, 42-9, that's pretty much all she wrote. You know what I'm saying? That was it at that point. I think, you know, per sources, probably going to let him ride out, you know, like one more year, because then they have to pay the payout or whatever, and things like that. So it's unfortunate for Damon, but they regressed. They lost 12 straight games. You know, they played tough against Clemson. I credit him for that, but it's just they never had that growth. Yes, Jaden Mustaf grew his game. Akai looked good as a true freshman this year, but Baidongo regressed. Kawasi Reeves, a great player. He was still having leadership questions, not about him, but just in general on the team. That's what your seniors are for, right? That's what your veterans are for. And it just seems like it was 3 years where, yeah, they showed some flashes here or there, but it just was never consistent. So, you know, he'll probably end up going, you know, they said maybe an Oregon State job or back to the NBA. But yeah, it's a tough situation. But yeah, man, you gotta be winning. Like I said, he's a hell of a recruiter. Hell of a recruiter. Just it didn't lead to winning. Is the biggest thing. So that's what I heard through the grapevine. But a lot of their money is tied into football, and baseball. You know what I'm saying? So like almost basketball gets third fiddle. It has been reported that they'll have about 5.5 million in NIL revenue share or whatever available. But it's like you had to pay Damon $2.6 million. You know what I'm saying? As a buy-in. So like, how do you go get this next coach? It's probably gonna have to be mid-major. Casey Belmont, Bob Ritchie, I think Bob Ritchie from Furman. You're gonna have to get one of those. I've mentioned some obviously throughout that could be interesting. Atlanta Celtics ties, that one kind of blew up on X. This one right here, I think he'd be a great fit. Are they gonna go do it? I don't know. But this is Corey McCray. I think he'd be a great fit for the Yellow Jackets. Has Atlanta Celtics ties, Bacon, so he already got that motion in the A in the city. So if your budget's not the best, like he can go with his acumen and people he know and go do that. But would you give him a chance? Some fans feel like it wouldn't be the right move because, he doesn't have the head coaching experience, but he's coached at Florida. They won the national championship last year. He's been over the development of Robert Chinyelu, who won SEC Defensive Player of the Year. Thomas Hawk looks like a lottery pick this year. Mississippi State, UCLA, LSU. I mean, it goes on and on. He was an NBA trainer for like 7-8 years. So to me, it's like it'd be a good pick, but again, we'll see what they do. But those are the leading ones: Bob Ritchie, I think, and Casey Alexander from Belmont.
So, what do you think this does? Great article, by the way. Great work. What do you think this does for the? You think they'll let recruits who already signed get out, or you think they're just opinionated?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm not sure. I think you would probably have to let them be able to sign out of the letter of intent. At that point, I think we've seen it in football, right? We've seen it with Salauzi Moa, his head coach. I don't know if you know who that is, but he's from Utah. Which probably not ringing a bell, but he's a 4-star athlete. He committed to Utah, then he had flipped to Tennessee, and then flipped back to Utah, and he ends up going to Michigan. His head coach, Kyle Whittingham, former Utes head coach for Utah, ends up getting the job at Michigan. He actually gets his letter of intent. He ends up going obviously to Michigan. Another example that'll hit closer to home for you, Bacon. What is bro's name? Brady Marchese. Remember, he was committed to Georgia for the longest from Cartersville. I think he had probably signed letter of intent last minute. He goes to Auburn. Now he's at Auburn and he gets out of his letter of intent. Another one that'll hit home for you, Bacon. Barry McWhorter signed to Michigan. X out of his letter of intent. I think he ended up at I don't want to say Arkansas. That's where he was for the longest. Let me make sure I got his school right. Hold on. He's at Auburn. So those are 3 live examples of kids being signed, like in different sport, but kids being signed and obviously getting out of the letter of intent.
100%, man. It'll be interesting. I mean, I can tell you what the kids are doing. It's still it's very early. You know, I mean, you have to see who's all transferring out. I think you still have a good nucleus there with the Kai Fleming coming in. I'm sure you still got Brandon Stores there. You don't know what not buy, but other big, the freshman big.
He's gone.
He's gone.
He's gone.
Okay.
Muhammad Silla gone.
Yeah, Muhammad Silla. It could be a little Arizona play, but it's a lot of movies. He's from there, or well, not from there, but that's where he Bella Vista is in Arizona. I can't remember what his younger friend do. Anyway,
Diallo.
Yeah. I can't remember what he committed, but I think he's out west too.
I think so.
But it's you know what I mean. It's a lot of things in the air, but it's doesn't look good right now. If I'm Georgia Tech, gonna have to move kind of quick, or you know what I mean. I don't know. It's just abrupt, man. It's very abrupt.
It's a tough situation.
Yeah, tough situation.
It is, and you're gonna see how good of an athletic director you're gonna have in Ryan Alpert. That's the bottom line, Bacon. because now he gotta be able to get the next head man. Not a lot of funds. You got to raise funds, Bacon, and then you have to figure out can that guy recruit? Can that guy develop? And can he bring in the right talent for the program and the organization?
Right, very true. Very true. So we'll keep y'all, you know what I'm saying, Naj keep up more updated on that being in the door, just as Georgia Tech practice facilities there for football. So you know what I'm saying, we'll lean on Naj for that insider intel, inside the scoop. So we'll see, ladies and gentlemen. We will see. But to move on, just want to add want to touch on some big schools, UGA, Kennesaw State, and West Georgia, my alma mater. You know what I mean? We'll talk about UGA. Is Georgia now under the Coach White regime? Are they a consistent contender for what they produce? Anthony Edwards, Jacob Wilkerson. Last year, Asa Newell, lottery pick. Have some lottery picks again this year. Bless you. Some Toast real is legit. Bless you.
Thank you.
Still bringing. I can't remember what the recruiting class looks like this year. But what do you think Georgia will be a consistent force moving forward in the SEC?
They're trending. Are they there yet? Not quite. Yeah, are they there yet? Not quite. No commits for 2026, Bacon. Had some guys interested, Coda Subtle, Quincy Wiley, favorite eBay, and MJ Madison. Excuse me, but no, they don't have any, I don't think, commits for this class. When you look at it, and only I think people are still out there for this class, to be honest with you. Let's see. Because what's his name is still unsigned. Hasn't committed. No. Tyron Stokes is number one player.
He's not going to GA though.
No, he's not. He's not. No, I'm just saying in general. Like, I don't think the class is still. It has a ways to go. Of kids, like some are signed, some are not. Like Christian Collins isn't. Brandon McCoy, Sierra Canyon, he's not. Let me see. Let's give you a couple. Quentin Coleman, Quincy Watley, Christopher Washington. He was formerly committed to Alabama, top 50 player nationally. Bacon, Josiah Johnson. You know what I'm saying? Joe Phelan, Boyan Zane from California, Fred Smith Jr. So I just think it's a lot to still happen is what I'm basically saying. Bacon, I think the tournament's going to see a lot because the portal opens right after that. So it'll be interesting because the portal opens right after the national championship, I think April 7th or April 10th, Bacon. And I think it's a 2-week portal. And he also got simultaneously like guys trying to find homes too. But far as Georgia, back to the point on hand, I do think they're trending in the right direction, Bacon. You look at some of the players that he's got, another 21 season under Mike White. They had their struggles this year, but was able to figure it out. I think he's doing a good job using the portal. I think he's doing a good job of recruiting talent. 2026, I don't know how good it's going to be. I think Jacob Wilkerson will be back another year. I don't really see him hit the draft. Right. Jeremiah Wilkerson's looked good this year. I think he's doing a good job developing these rosters. Now can they take the next step forward in a potential NCAA tournament?
Yeah, well said. You know, I mean, like you said, they had some struggles, but they played very good teams tough. They played to Tennessee to overtime. You know what I mean? They beat Kentucky, close loss to Vanderbilt late in the season, beat a 16th ranked Alabama 2 games ago. Did lose today. They lost by 4 to Ole Miss in the SEC tournament. So that's not what you want to see. But Ole Miss is no slouch. You know what I mean? They got they have some good ball players over there. But I agree with you. They're trending in the right direction. I think next year, well, I think that if they bring if Coach White brings in a good recruiting class and sweeps some of these guys in Georgia, keeps some guys in the state, I think you can go ahead and stamp them. You know, they've had a pretty good run here the last 3 to 4 years.
That's a good point.
But we'll move on to Kennesaw State. Are they one big run away from being a nationally respected mid-major? You know what I'm saying? In your opinion.
Good question. They're trending there, I would say. They're getting what they're doing and positioning themselves big, and they're getting a lot of top guys. That you'd be like, why is Braden Luke going to Kennesaw State? Why is this guy? And they're getting all state caliber talent. They're doing a good job using the portal. Are they becoming like you said, a mid-major? They're definitely getting there. What I'm saying, a team that's been consistently pretty good, playing right now against Western Kentucky, up 19-8, obviously in the Conference USA. So, trying to obviously secure that. But yeah, I think they're just doing a good job recruiting, right? This year, maybe not the best, 18-13. Coming to the tournament, 2 consecutive losses. So pretty much playing for the tournament lives, but they're trending in the right direction. Getting guys like Simeon Cotto, RJ Johnson, Braden Lewis gotten better, 11.4 points this year. I think they're doing a good job. I think they're well on their way.
Yeah, I agree. RJ Johnson, from Alabama, I believe. Yeah, from Huntsville, Alabama. You know what I'm saying? Was one of those names you heard swirling around. Caleb Holt's name. I think Coach Antone, what's his last name? 1 second. Coach Antone Petaway is doing a great job. You know what I mean? The scandal hit January. At the end of January, they lost 3 straight games. After that, they went 4-2, getting the train back on the rails. I mean, up right now against Western Kentucky, entering as a 6 seed. You know what I mean? They're sweeping the state like how we want to see Georgia do, even though, they're sweeping the state and recruits Dozie from Kennesaw. I think that's a sleeper pickup for them. RJ Johnson was a big pickup, and like you said, just said Braden Lou. So I think we can look at him as a coach, recruiter, staple. I think there are one big runaway, but I think this year could have been that year. But you lose Simeon Cotto, leading the scorer, to a gambling incident. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. So we'll see how they kind of bounce back next year. But that is a black guy on the program. But Kennesaw State is popping right now. People want to go to Kennesaw for a good time. So you know what I'm saying? It might be in the races. So we'll see what's going on with Kennesaw in the future. Last on college basketball before we get into a little bit of WBBB women's basketball. West Georgia. I had to check in on my Wolves, man. You know what I mean? They lost second round the ASUN conference, but I think they're on the trajectory of being a team similar to Kennesaw State. Kennesaw State, once upon a time, was in the ASUN conference. They already have a young man who 6th man of the year in the ASUN conference has already talked to the field of 68 and said, "Hey, I'm putting my name in the transfer portal." You know, we talked about that earlier for better or for worse. However, I think this is a good sign. It's good PR for a school out west in West Georgia to have this type of publicity and pub coming from a major brand like the Field of 68 and to get 30,000 clicks or impressions. So guard Josh Smith. Interesting name. Is hitting the portal, average 60.2 points, 2.1 rebounds, 2.1 assists. I mean, 34% from 3. That's big time. Also, a young man from Seattle, Washington, I believe, was a senior last year. Didn't have anybody coming after him. Shelton Williams Dryden is the 4th leading scorer in the conference in the ASUN, and is the number 2 rebounder in the ASUN with 9 rebounds per game. So I definitely wanted to shine some light on those guys from West Georgia. If you have anything to add on that, Naj, you know what I'm saying, feel free. But I just had to shout out my guys.
Yeah, man, pretty tough for them. They ended the season the right way. Just they had a tough stretch, man. They won. Let me see. They lost. It's like, they lost 7 of the last 8 games.
Yeah.
Right there that late or early January period, but towards the stretch, won 3 of the last 4. Just struggled towards the end of it, man. But a team that's still like obviously building. But like you said, 2 really good players. And like I said, he'll land on his feet. Josh Smith, obviously, what he was able to do is somebody will get a gym. He'll probably go power 4 level.
Nah, thanks. Yeah, they played schools like Georgia Southern, very tough. They played a lot of decent schools, but even played Georgia, I think, halfway decent. Let me just kind of gloss over here real quick and we'll transition. Let's see. Yeah, we lost by 30 to Georgia. But they played Georgia Southern tough for sure. Florida Gulf Coast, some conference teams, pretty tough. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like I said, I think what the West Georgia Wolves are building and to be the first year D1 basketball, to do it like that, you know what I mean? That's a fair thing you have for that program. But being on campus, you can definitely feel the momentum. So like I said, I had to shout out the UWG guys for sure. And then in the next headline, Aaliyah Chavez, you know what I'm saying? She is one. She's been awarded the best national freshman. I think this is a shoe-in, you know what I mean? She's gonna be a superstar, man.
Yeah, I mean, winning at that early, obviously it says a lot. She's had a great seasons, hit it on fire. She's had obviously growing pains like any obviously freshman Bacon. But her winning freshman of the year, yeah, it just speaks to all the work she's put in, how elite of a basketball talent she is. And like I said, she even she's captivating. When you're captivating and can play at the level that she has, it's a great job. And a lot of people looked at her kind of sideways when she chose Oklahoma. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Coming out, and it was like, oh, Oklahoma. But what I love is she made her own story. She didn't go to the Blue Bloods, Tennessees, or South Carolinas, the LSU. She just decided to get out the mud and go make her mark. And I think that's kind of low key to move a little bit. If you're playing women's basketball, you look at, girls like Caitlin Clark, Iowa. Like, when have they ever been known for women's basketball? You know what I'm saying? You're seeing kind of that shift of more of these athletes going to these schools, like Aaliyah Chavez to Oklahoma, not really known for basketball. Audie Crooks, Iowa State, not really known for, basketball and doing a job. You still have obviously other examples like Hannah Hidalgo going to Notre Dame, they powerhouse program, right? Juju, she's obviously at USC, right? And they got another young girl coming up as well. But I think it's even cooler the story when they go to a team that ain't really known,
Yeah, fair. And she's from Texas. Have that blue, you know what I'm saying? That was surprising. In NBA news, with transition, Bam Adebayo, 83 points, second all-time game leading scorer, 41 free throws, something crazy like that. I watched the highlights. I think it's impressive, but do you think it's impressive?
Getting a lot of flack for it. Yeah, you're getting a lot of flack for it, Bacon. They don't think it's as impressive as what Kobe did or his or Will. I think at the end of the day, you got to respect the game. Yes, he took 43 free throws. I get it, but it's just a night they didn't have an answer for him. We can't diminish what he did. You know what I'm saying? So we don't see, I feel like, offensive implosions like that as much. Even though it's a you know what I'm saying, it's an offensive league, Bacon. We don't really see that as much. So I just think it's a night he had it going. Probably one of the more random nights in NBA history. But again, you got a gym. You know what I'm saying? You got a gym. So I think you got to appreciate it. Is he an all-time great player? No. Is he a good player? Yes. Could he be great? Sure. But you got to respect what he did. You know what I'm saying? And Washington had no answers. Whoever was against still an NBA caliber team, they deserve to be there. They're in the NBA for a reason. So, I would just say just don't try to diminish what he did. I know he took a lot of free throws, whatever. They still didn't have answers for him. And it wasn't the most efficient shooting performance. But you got to respect it, man. That's not easy to do.
No, not easy to do. I've been very high on Bam. I think he's underrated. I think he gets I think he flies under the radar for being in the Miami Heat system. That's a system basketball team. I think if he's on any other team, I think he gets a lot more appreciation. He's 6'10". Dwight Howard with all the intangibles handled a jump shot. So if it's anywhere else, I think he gets more shine. I respect it. He dominated. You know what I'm saying? We saw a lot of shots from behind the arc, versatility, you know what I'm saying, his footwork. So for that reason, I'm a coach out here, Mr. Bam Adebayo. And you got Asia Wilson on your arm. You're looking good, brother. It look like it's a wholesome relationship. Salute to y'all, man. You know what I'm saying? Mr. and Mrs. Basketball. All right, Naj, we got two more, so we can come to a close. But want to ask you, man, are the on-court skirmishes at the NBA in the NBA is it good for the game of basketball?
Great. As long as you ain't got people putting paws on each other and fighting and being belligerent or degenerative, yes, it's good for the league. You know what I'm saying? I like it. That was a flop. But nonetheless, yes, man. We only reason I say it is I will never advocate for fighting. I just say the skirmishes is okay. You're passionate about this, right? You taking this thing serious, right? We seen one other night. I think it was Minnesota in the Clippers, and I think Kawhi was like, "Hey, that's a fight." Like, we just want to see more passion. All these fans pay so much money to see these players. They barely be passionate. They barely play. Yeah, we want to see like, okay, how serious do you guys take this? You know what I'm saying? That's the quote right there. Hey, it's a fight. You know what I'm saying? Like that's, I mean, not the fight we want to see, but the skirmishes. I'm cool with that. Stand your piece, stand your ground, and say what it is. You know what I'm saying? See right there. Hey, it's a fight. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what we want to see. You know what I'm saying? Again, I don't want nobody to get hurt. That's not what I'm advocating for. We just want to see the passion of the NBA. You know, the rivalries coming back. That's it, man.
Right, I agree. That's exactly what we want to see, man. It's been a lot of like basketball, this, that, and the third. To me, I think it's a lot of the game's high level, man. You know what I'm saying? We don't have a lot of. It's not a. It's a couple of things. In the last 4 years, MVPs have all been international. You know, the standard isn't as high. You know what I'm saying? The people have criticized LeBron for not keeping the same standard in the NBA and being too buddy, yada yada yada. This is good. I like it. But it's gonna have to. The rivalries are gonna have to. It's just a start. This is just a start. So, but I agree with you, Naj. I do like. I think it's good for the game of basketball. If you want to see consistent views come back outside of just playoffs, really like third round of playoffs and beyond. Wemby doing a great job of that. Chet Holmgren comes to mind. And you can't forget about the OG Draymond. Well, last topic, man. We're talking about Magic City night being canceled. You know what I mean? We had to put on here for the ATL guys. We are in Georgia. You know what I mean? I don't like it. You know what I mean? We've all been to these basketball games. We see how the cheerleaders dance, man. I feel like, yeah, Magic City, you know, you down there, get your drink. Some people in Atlanta eat lemon pepper wings and the famous cookies at State Farm Arena. I don't like it. Me personally, I think the NBA has a lot going on. We haven't heard anything about the poker games or the gambling, trying to build the whole thing. We haven't heard anything about Steve Ballmer. But the moment this comes about Atlanta having Magic City night, within days, we get our wrist popped. Man, it don't make no sense. That's just my 2 cents.
Nah, I think you bring up a great point. Like, why are we not talking more about that? There was some outrage. I think Luke Cornett was one of them. A couple people had talked all about it. Again, I'm in no way promoting, you know, what it is, but it's, you know, whatever happens at Magic City happens. I've never been. I don't know. Okay, you know, it's adult entertainment. Cool, I get it. At the same time, it feels like they almost got ripped a cultural moment. You know what I'm saying? To me, and it's like, well, what was going to be the promotion? It was going to have hoodies or whatever it was going to be. You know what I'm saying for it. I don't know, man. I just think that's a great way to collab with a brand. Hawks are an NBA brand that would have been big for Magic City. Obviously, they're well known. You know what I'm saying, and I think it would have been both. You know, a good joint venture. I think. You know what I'm saying for both of them, just to continue to help. Yeah, continue to help them and what they're doing and whatever. End of the day, it's business. I get it. I get how it looks. I'm not saying I'm for that and everything that it personifies. All I'm saying is that I think that was a great cultural moment. We haven't had many of those lately in the NBA. You know, I know there've been backlash about it. I don't know. I just feel like some stuff he'd be cookie cutter about, other stuff he just let kind of slide. To your point, Bacon. I think that was something real harmless. It's not like now if they would have had the girls out there, strippers court, smooth. No, cool. To wear a merch with Magic, I don't really see the problem with this merch. A patch. Now, different in society, if they're there and they're doing what they're doing, no, we don't want that. But I just, you know, and I know people are like, oh, Naj, if you wear it, you're supporting it, you know, you're just as bad. I get it. You know what I'm saying? But I just think that's a big part of like Atlanta when you think about Atlanta. And all the cultural elements that is here. No, that's not the only one, y'all. But you know how hot it is and how many people go. You got college players going. I don't know. I just feel like it was a great missed opportunity.
Well said, brother. I think you said everything that needs to be said about it. We don't want to draw too long for people to make assumptions. Yeah, them guys have been. No, we haven't been, man. We have not been. Maybe one day, but that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That's been Just As a News podcast, man. We had on a great day. Excuse me, great guest today, Allan Purnell, talked about just basketball having its own app community outside of the NBA, Instagram, and things of that nature, where you can come get skills from people all over the world, man. So we appreciate him coming on. Had good topics. Now I gave his insight, and I gave my insight and opinion as well. So we thank y'all for coming on. We'll see y'all Monday and beyond. Don't forget, basketball is here every Thursday at 8. Peace and love. Oh, can't forget the Just As a News thing too, man. My bad. We got to keep that uniform, man. Much love, everybody.